If I start with a story, I was the deputy commander of the Central Command in the late winter of 2010 and the early months of 2011, which is what has been the so-called Arab Spring. I have a little experience with these things called tsunamis, and tsunami is not a single wave, it's multiple waves, and I would really rather rename the Arab Spring to the Arab Tsunami, because what's happening and what has happened is as we watched literally the fire of the Arab tsunami burn its way across North Africa coming towards us in the Middle East, and we did the analysis on it, what we discovered goes to Dan's point, because Al-Qaeda at the time was attempting to make the case that what was happening in this broader collapse, if you will, of governance across the region was a direct result of the success of Salafi jihadist doctrine and the spread. The truth, of course, was Al-Qaeda was attempting to sprint out ahead of what was, in fact, a broad failure of governance and societies across the region. Spurred in many cases, again to Dan's point, spurred in many cases by, for the first time, the widespread use of social media. And we watched this very closely because as Tunisia came apart, the capacity for that level of success, of societal disintegration, was vastly magnified by virtue of social media. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all of those things were conveying that in one country after another, when the society rose up, it was achieving effect. And the problem with so many of these societies was the failure of governance and the failures of society to deliver on the expectations of a mega trend which has occurred in that region and is occurring broadly across the world, which is that a large portion of all those societies were aged roughly 15 to 29 or so. And these young men and women had real expectations for their futures because in many respects they had been exposed to in some extent or another to what 15 to 29-year-olds were achieving in other countries as well. And so no access to education, corrupt judiciaries, predatory security forces, the failure of inclusivity, an absence of the rights for women, and virtually no economic prospects. And we began to see what should have been self-evident to us all along.